Hey everyone, welcome back. You ready for another deep dive?
Always ready to dive in.
Awesome. So, today we're tackling something a little different, but trust me, it's fascinating. We're going to be exploring the origins of some of the most common Easter words and phrases.
Yeah, the ones we hear every year without really thinking about where they came from.
Exactly. Like, Easter Bunny, Good Friday, even Lent. I mean, we use these terms all the time.
Yeah,
But have you ever stopped to think about what they actually mean? Like where they originated from?
right. Like, why a bunny? Why eggs? Why is Friday good when it commemorates, a crucifixion?
Seriously. So many questions. And the answers, well, let me tell you, some of them are pretty surprising and even a little mind-blowing.
Definitely not your typical Sunday school lesson.
Nope. So get ready to have some of those long-held assumptions challenged. Let's start with the word Easter itself. Now, most people probably don't know this, but Easter actually comes from Eostre.
Eostre.
Yeah, Eostre, who was, get this, the ancient Germanic goddess of spring and fertility.
A goddess, huh? That's not something you hear every day.
Right. It's pretty wild. And her festival, you won't believe this, was celebrated around the same time as Easter.
So, like, spring equinox kind of time.
Yeah, exactly. So some scholars think that early Christians might have adopted the name Easter from Easter's festival, as a way to kind of connect their new faith with those existing traditions.
Hmm. That's really interesting. It's like a merging of cultures and beliefs.
Totally. It's like they were trying to make Christianity more relatable to people who are already celebrating spring and renewal.
Which makes a lot of sense, right? Spring is such a powerful symbol of new life, rebirth. It's a natural fit with the whole idea of resurrection.
Absolutely. I mean, think about it. Spring was super important in ancient Germanic culture. It was this time of, like, hope and new beginnings after a long, harsh winter.
Yeah, I can see how they would want to tie those ideas together. It makes the new religion a little easier to swallow, maybe.
For sure. So speaking of spring and new beginnings, let's talk about the Easter Bunny.
Ah, yes, the bunny. Always a crowd pleaser.
But like, why a bunny? What do rabbits have to do with Easter?
Well, rabbits are known for, how do I put this delicately? Their ability to multiply rapidly.
Uh-huh. Yeah, they definitely have a reputation for that.
So, in many cultures, they've long been seen as symbols of fertility, new life, abundance, all those good things that are associated with spring.
So it's like a natural connection then. Rabbits, spring, new life, Easter.
Exactly. Plus, there's that whole German folklore figure, the Osterhaus.
What now?
Osterhaus, it basically means Easter hare, and he was this magical hare who would like deliver eggs to good children.
Wait, so the Easter Bunny is actually a hare?
Well, kind of. Over time, the hare and the bunny kind of, morphed into one in popular culture. But yeah, the whole idea of a bunny bringing eggs at Easter, that comes from German folklore.
Okay, now that is super interesting. I had no idea about that.
See, I told you there would be surprises.
You weren't kidding. And speaking of surprises, let's talk about Easter eggs themselves. I mean, we all know about chocolate eggs and decorating eggs, but where did that tradition even come from?
Oh man, Easter eggs have a long, fascinating history. I mean, way before Cadbury got involved.
Really? Like, how far back are we talking?
Eggs have been associated with spring celebrations for centuries in many different cultures, and early Christians, they incorporated eggs into their Easter traditions too, but they would paint them red
Red. Why red?
to symbolize the blood of Christ. It was a very solemn, symbolic thing.
Wow, I never knew that. It really adds another layer of meaning to the tradition, doesn't it?
It does. It's a reminder that behind all the fun and games, there's this deep, profound meaning at the heart of Easter.
And it's amazing how those simple red eggs eventually evolved into the brightly colored, intricately decorated eggs we see today.
Right. And then you have the egg hunts, which are just pure fun for kids. But, those might have a connection to medieval Christian practices too. Think about it. During Lent, people would abstain from eating eggs.
Ah, so that's where the whole 40 days of giving up something comes from.
Exactly. And then after Lent, they could finally enjoy those eggs again. So those early egg hunts might have been a way to celebrate breaking the fast.
I can see how that would make those eggs taste extra delicious.
Yeah.
But let's shift gears for a second and talk about another word you often hear around Easter, Paschal. I'll be honest, I've always been a little fuzzy on what it means.
Paschal actually comes from the Hebrew word Pesach, which means Passover. It's a reminder that Easter and Passover are historically and thematically connected.
Wait, really? I mean, I know they often fall around the same time, but I never really thought about them being connected.
Yeah, there are some really interesting parallels. Both holidays celebrate liberation and overcoming hardship. For Christians, it's the resurrection of Jesus, and for Jewish people, it's the Exodus from Egypt.
Wow, that's a connection I never made before. It's amazing how these seemingly separate traditions can have shared roots.
It's all about digging a little deeper and seeing those connections,
Mm,
right?
absolutely. So let's dig into something else now, something a little more delicious. Hot cross buns.
Ah, yes. The perfect Easter treat. Spiced, sweet, and with that symbolic cross on top.
Did you know that those were originally baked by monks to honor Good Friday?
I did. And the word bun itself is pretty interesting. It comes from the old French word beignet, which means essentially a small cake. So it's gone through quite the transformation over the years.
That's so cool. From monks to medieval French cakes, the history of food is fascinating.
It really is. And speaking of fascinating history, we have to talk about the name Good Friday.
Okay, yeah, that one's always kind of bugged me. Why is it called Good Friday when it marks such a somber event? The crucifixion.
Right, it seems kind of counterintuitive. But there are a couple of theories about where the name comes from. Some scholars believe that good simply refers to the holy significance of the day. It's a day that holds deep religious meaning, even though it commemorates a tragic event.
So, like, good in a spiritual sense.
Exactly. Others think that Good Friday might have evolved from God's Friday, again emphasizing the day's religious importance.
Huh, interesting. It's amazing how language can evolve over time and how a single word can have multiple interpretations.
Absolutely. Language is constantly shifting and changing, just like our understanding of the world.
And speaking of shifting and changing, let's wrap up with Lent, those 40 days leading up to Easter. I recently learned that the word Lent comes from the Old English word lengthen. Any guesses what that means?
Let me think. Something to do with, like, lengthening days.
You got it. Lengthen basically means springtime.
So even Lent, a period of fasting and reflection, is ultimately tied to the concept of spring and renewal.
Exactly. It's about spiritual cleansing, preparing for the joy of Easter.
It's all connected, isn't it? Death and resurrection, winter giving way to spring.
It really is.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about these deep dives. We take these words and phrases that we think we know, and we discover all these hidden depths and connections.
It's like a journey of discovery, right? Peeling back the layers and seeing how everything fits together.
Exactly. So, as we wrap up this deep dive, we want to leave you with a thought to ponder. Now that you know the origins of these Easter words and phrases, does it change how you think about the holiday? Does it deepen your appreciation for it? We'd love to hear your reflections.
Keep those brains buzzing, everyone.
Until next time,
Happy Easter.
and happy spring.